And I think it also goes through the different types of rest. So you have physical rest, you have spiritual rest. Like you can be serving as a way to spiritually rest, but be exhausted physically at the end of it.
There are times when I am so engrossed in like developing a study, like for the teenagers. I'm like mapping it out, and I'm working out the details and setting the main points of each session. I can come out of that and be just completely like energized and feel like God has done something in my own heart.
Welcome to First Families, conversations to encourage you in your family's spiritual journey.
Well, hey, everybody. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us on this episode of
First Families. Where we put families first.
I'm your old pal, Matt Parker, your friendly neighborhood student minister. And those are my dogs barking in the background, if you can hear them.
And I'm Kimberly, your pastor for kids and families. And if you can hear it, that's my child crying in the background. So we're off to a great start. Excited to chat with y'all today and catch up. Yeah. It is cold outside while we're recording this. The wind chills are negative 15s and 20s.
Yee, that's cold.
It looks like a snow globe outside. So,
yeah. It's amazing. It's a good hot cocoa day. So I got my cocoa with my Peanuts character mug. Gotta love that. It's one of my favorites.
Yep. So growing up in Texas, we never had snow days, which means anytime there's a chance for a snow day, I absolutely love it. I love getting to like burrow into the house and cancel everything. Probably because I didn't get that as a child. And so I'm recouping all of those lost nostalgic memories. How do you
agree? Oh, I'm right there with you. Like I would go visit my family in Ohio during winter break and get just like ecstatic when it snowed, and they would all side eye me like I was the one who made it happen or something. It's I didn't mind though. It was kind of fun. Good times.
That's fantastic.
So when it's this cold, are you the kind of person that like turns your HVAC all the way to like 80 degrees, or are you like, we're saving money, put it at 60 and then we'll put on more clothes?
Yeah. So pre-kid, we would get down to 68 and just freeze a little bit more than usual. Now that we have to regulate the body of a tiny child, we've kind of settled out at 70 degrees in the house, pretty much no matter what. And occasionally, if it's extra chilly, I'll bump it up to 72 for a few hours just to warm everything up. But I'm a big fan of blankets and not being super hot and heated.
Yeah, Snuggies are amazing. Gotta love them.
Well, and our space is a beautiful direction where if it's sunny outside, even if it's cold, our house heats up. And so that definitely helps on.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, we keep our HVAC at 67 year round, or not year round, during the winter, and we close off the rooms that are the coldest. Like where I'm sitting right now, the vents are closed off because we're not in here very much. So when we are in here, we open the door and the heat comes in and it's fine. So the vents closed off, we keep the door closed, and it's pretty. So we're pretty hardcore about saving that money.
That's
and
good.
we use the fireplace because gas is a little less than electricity. So
there you go. Fantastic.
Get money where you can. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're recording this from our homes via Google Meet because the entire city is shut down, as far as I can tell. Offices closed, schools are closed, and so it's one of those snow days where we just get to work from the house, which has actually been productive for me this morning. So it's good. So do you like on a snow day, do you stay in your PJs for most of the day when you work it from the home, or are you one of those that gets up, showers, and it's like, this has got to feel like a normal day? Or
I am never one of those people. I very rarely am one of those people. I will stay in sweatpants and lounge as much as my schedule will allow me.
Yeah. I have to have some sort of rhythm, but usually I put my, like I just showered so I could be presentable for this video. So good times. Yeah.
Cool. Well, what are we talking about today? We are talking about, oh, it's February. My mom likes to say February, as
February.
it is spelled, not
Mhm.
as most people pronounce it, which means Valentine's Day was recently, which is a pretty, I don't know, some people love it and some people hate it. But it is a month where people have love on their mind. And so we thought we'd kind of think through, how do we show love to God? Because everyone can relate to that. And it's really good to show God we love him. And so Matt, what makes you just turn your heart towards God?
Okay, so as a good youth pastor, I should say something like I like spend an hour in prayer and in my devotional reading every morning, and that just fills me up. But my personality is like I enjoy sitting and reading and things like that, and that's definitely true. But my personality is such that that there are two things that really get me going, and that's when I'm serving someone else, like without even them knowing it, with or maybe without them there even. Usually it feels best when they're not even there. But like I'm an acts of service kind of guy, if you know the 5 love languages. And so I'm an acts of service guy. So it really gets me going when I have the chance to serve somebody. And also, as a good introvert, if I'm doing something like running, or I'm doing a project around the house, or I'm gardening or something like that, that's what really kind of sparks my inner life, my inner monologue with God. And so, like, showing him I love him, it's mainly in acts of service, but sparking my devotion, my feelings of devotion, my affections, it's mainly in that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I love how you kind of differentiated between the two, because I was thinking similar lines where, like, music is my heart language. And so if I love to read, I love reading the Bible and all those things, but as far as just like straight up worshiping God and telling how I love him, I get more joy and expressiveness through listening to a worship song or singing than I do reading the Psalms. Even though I do get something out of both. And so as like, music fills me up with gratitude and love for God. But then on the flip side, kind of enjoying the things that God has made. I love nature. And so anytime I'm like in the mountains, which is not in Missouri at all, that kind of sparks that fire. But also, just like I was thinking, a warm cup of coffee. Like my quiet time in the morning is made even more special when I have a warm cup of coffee with me. And so that's something that just is like that tactile, that experiential warmth helps me be more reflective and more aware of God's presence. And it just kind of creates that environment for me that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Okay, so what you said about like sparking your affection, I think that's a good way of thinking of it. And the way I talk about with the students, I'm like, what makes you feel more connected with Jesus? What makes you feel like what sparks your affections? What really gets you connected and makes you love him a little more? Do that. It doesn't look the same for everybody. And so, like, if going on a run and you come back and you're feeling physically tired but emotionally and spiritually revived, well, do that. And as often as you can. And I think we get into this mindset of like a one size fits all kind of spirituality, where we look at the monks from the medieval times and we're like, well, if we're not getting up at 4 a.m. and spending 3 hours in scripture and prayer, well, then we're not actually all that spiritual. I think that's a bad way to think about it.
I think there's definitely this misnomer, and it's on the front of my mind because I've been working on a Sabbath lesson for Sunday morning, and I think a lot of times we buy this lie that unless we're reading the Bible and praying for all of Sabbath, then we're not doing Sabbath right. Like, it's not spiritual enough. But on the side, I think sometimes we can go off the other end and just do like, well, I'm going to go spend time in nature and spend time with family. And we never take the time to read and reflect on scripture or pray or worship and do those things. And we lose the spirituality while we're filling our soul with all the things God made us to love without actually remembering to remember God in it. And so I think they're both important, and they kind of hold each other in tension.
Yeah. I knew a guy once who was like, I can worship God as much on a boat in the middle of a lake as I can with, probably more effectively there than I can with, with a group of people in a building. And yeah, that might be true, but are you actually? That's a question that I've got in the back of my mind anytime I have that conversation. Is it actually worship? Is it actually devotion when you're doing that, or are you just throwing a line in the water and spending time by yourself? There's got to be some intentionality about that, right?
Yeah, if we lose Jesus from it completely, that's just like spiritualism, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spiritual without being Christian. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I mean, if I spend all my time in nature but forget to like actually turn my heart towards Jesus, then I've worshipped without remembering Jesus in that, and I think you've missed something. But that's also not to say that you have to be singing praise songs 24/7 to turn your heart towards Jesus in nature. So I think it's different for everyone, but it's good to be aware of that tension.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm going to turn a question on you. What do you think about the idea of this kind of, well, you mentioned Sabbath before, this kind of active rest is something I've been thinking about some recently, and is like you can be actively doing something and at the same time spending time in that Sabbath rest and developing your relationship with God at the same time. Is that something that you buy, or do you have a different?
Yes, and maybe I think that's true to an extent, but different personalities react to that differently. So I feel like people who naturally learn kinesthetically, the movement is something, the way that they like process the world really well, are going to find more rest and active rest than maybe someone that's not their natural energy level or way of doing it. I haven't spent a lot of time figuring out exactly what mine would be. And I think it also goes through the different types of rest. So you have physical rest, you have spiritual rest. Like you can be serving as a way to spiritually rest, but be exhausted physically at the end of it. Or you can be physically resting, but spiritually exhausted maybe at the end of it. Like there's different layers to it. I don't think it's a one size fits all. Yeah.
Some of the times that I am most physically resting, like taking a nap all day, or just laying around streaming movies or whatever, I am often more spiritually like drained and physically just like in a bad, well, maybe not physically, but in an emotionally bad headspace. And it's kind of an interesting dynamic for me. It's kind of the same thing about spending all day long in PJs, or getting up and taking a shower and getting dressed like a regular day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel that with the weather being so cold, I love walks, and that gives me a lot of energy even when I'm tired. And so not being able to do that in February and a lot of January, really, I can tell my energy level is a lot less. And then it's this spiral of, okay, if my energy level is less, then I don't want to do anything. And as I do less, my lethargicness grows, and I get into this weird rut that sometimes productivity helps me get out of.
Yeah. There are times when I am so engrossed in like developing a study, like for the teenagers. I'm like mapping it out, and I'm working out the details and setting the main points of each session. I can come out of that and be just completely like energized and feel like God has done something in my own heart. I try not to depend on that too much, because there's a difference between my work and my spiritual life, but sometimes they overlap to a degree that as I'm working and doing what I do, God just speaks to me in a way that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something new and fresh, and I feel a lot closer to Him through that. So sometimes that the work of what I do is is helpful as well, and builds my love for God.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point. That's great. It's good,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've been writing this curriculum. Have you had that a moment where everything's kind of clicking and you're like, yeah, God is really speaking to me through this?
Yeah, I think of them more kind of like light bulb moments, more than like a clicking moment, but it's the same metaphor, where I'll get into this groove and I'll just like have idea after idea after idea that I'm working on, and then it'll be like 3 hours later and I'm fatigued, but I'm also like, wow, that was really cool. I feel accomplished. I feel productive. I did something meaningful for the Lord, and yeah, I definitely can resonate with that. And then other days it's like pulling teeth, so it kind of on whether I had that warm cup of coffee to start.
That's right. Coffee is essential for me getting in the right frame of mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm a coffee guy.
Mm-hmm.
So what about for somebody who's not like a pastor? What would you, how would you like talk about this with one of your, say, kids ministry parents, like they're struggling to develop their love for God? How would you go about advising them?
Yeah, I would say start with, what do you love? Who did God make you to be? What resonates with you? Because God made us each unique. And so it makes sense that we each have different ways that we best connect with God and other people. And so rather than like trying to come from reading the Bible, praying, worship, those are your standards. And how does my love for God fit in them? Those are all important things to do, but maybe start from like, who did God create me to be? Maybe I'm an extrovert, so like corporate worship really does fuel that. Maybe I'm an introvert, and while corporate worship is important, private studying of God's word really fuels that. And they're all good to do, and they're disciplines for a reason, because you have to work at them. But I do think starting with who God made you to be, to really lean into those heart, I don't know the word, ways to show God, like the heart ones, that really resonate. You just start with that and then go from there and see where it leads you.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. That's very similar to what I was, what I tell the students, go chase after that thing that makes you feel close to Jesus, and that'll be the way to go. And then do that more. Do that as often as you possibly can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. Yeah. So how about helping parents like talk to their kids about this? Like what's a conversation starter that they might use?
Yeah. I think as a parent, be on the lookout for how your kid learns and how your kid loves. So maybe it's looking into the 5 love languages and seeing maybe they're a kid that just loves hugs, or maybe they're a kid that loves acts of service. And so starting with loving your kids well can help teach them how to love God well.
Yeah.
If you can kind of identify what resonates with them or ways that they love, maybe they're a kid who loves getting outdoors. Well, when you get outdoors more with them and point out God in nature. Maybe they're a kid who loves music. Well, find some worship music that play it in the car. Find music that will lay foundations or be seated in their mind as they grow up and can come back to, and be intentional with those messages you're playing as you're worshiping God together. But then also like maybe your kid thrives on serving others. Well, you can really hone that and find ways to serve together. Just it's knowing your kid and kind of digging into that more. Than I think with kids, it's more doing than talking. As you're doing, you're talking, but rather than sitting down and having a discussion with your 3rd grader, it's finding something to do together to experience that what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah. With kids, especially younger kids, you're kind of like doing things side by side. Is that kind of like the idea? And then as they get older, it's more face to face and conversational, right? So, start, as they kind of get out of the concrete into the abstract, you can start digging into those deeper conversations. And so for teenagers, you have the conversation in the car. You bring the thing up. You also serve alongside each other, and you get down into doing those things together, whatever it is. But in my mind, for the thing, and I was just reading something about this morning. The thing that will give your kids a picture of what it is to love God is for them to watch parents. Their adult caregivers are going to model what it looks like for them to have that that love for God and to be able to develop that devotional life.
Absolutely. And I think that's critical because so often we view our devotional life or our relationship with God as something really private. And
Mhm.
we're almost trained not to show it, right? Because
Right.
we don't want to be flashy, we don't be showing. But I think there's a very distinct difference between a parent modeling and not showing off, but showing what they're doing and explaining it to their kids why they're doing it. That's very different than doing something for show. Like I'm thinking about, we just got our kiddo a little water bottle. He's been struggling drinking water. We could not figure out for the life of him, like how to get him to drink water. But I have this blue Stanley that he always sees me drinking out of, and he always wants to chew on the straw. So I got him a little tiny Infantino blue Stanley. And sure enough, if I get my Stanley out and I start drinking water and I offer his, he will start drinking water every single time.
Nice.
He's doing it. It's already worn off on him. This is how mom drinks water. I want to be like that. And I think so many times we might be tempted to wait until kids are away to spend time with Jesus because it's less distracting. But if you always do that and your kid never sees you reading your Bible, they may just assume it doesn't happen. And embracing that chaos and doing it in ways that are visible sometimes or maybe all the time is a modeling, and that will resonate with them more than you saying, well, I read my Bible when you're at school, and they never see it.
Right. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, well, I think that's about all we got time for. February is all about love, but we want to redirect that towards God. And I hope that you've been inspired to look at in your own life and see how God made you to worship him and really lean into that, and then help your kiddos find that as well. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time, right?
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Recording, and boom, done.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You might be, can you hear Dawson in the background?
I cannot.
Okay,
Can you hear my kids talking in the background?
No, but I'm hearing upstairs. That's fun. That's real life.